it has been 72 hours since one person died, two people critically injured, and the Republican nominee was nearly assassinated by a difference of maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches.
Crazy.
And it seems like it's become a sort of a backseat story.
I mean, we talk about how the news moves fast these days. Is there not a better example of this? Where we're already kind of shrugging off, it seems like, the assassination attempt on Trump. In part because the Republicans have no narrative against it. Because they don't want to limit guns. They don't want to go down that road. And as we're going to get into here, the guy that attempted the assassination was a white guy with, it seems like, many Republican and conservative leanings based on classmate accounts and based on reporting that's beginning to trickle out at this point.
I can't find the number of what number it is. This video. This is a report. What number is it? This is a report from local news in Pennsylvania, WPXI. News reporter, we don't have her name, but they are at the Trump's Shooters Street in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. And this is what she reports.
Investigators dressed in plain clothes as well as FBI agents approach this house. That's where the family of Thomas Crooks lives, which is right here on Milford Drive. Then we started to see those agents going door to door, canvassing the neighborhood and speaking with people who live here. They're trying to get answers to the many questions that still remain. Crooks's motive is still unclear. Records show he is a registered Republican, and neighbors today told us that they've actually seen Trump signs outside of the home over the course of the last few years. Investigators.
All right. And there's, I don't think you need to be, you don't need to rely on conspiracies here to start to, ask questions as to why hasn't there been a little bit more diligent reporting on this? For instance, where is the official medical report on Donald Trump going to the doctor? I mean, I imagine that he went to the doctor, but there were reports initially that it was the teleprompter that shattered, and then it was that he was shot in the ear. I imagine that's all relatively straightforward. Again, it appears like he was nearly assassinated an inch or two. That's not something that you would in a million years, if you're Donald Trump, say yeah, no, I trust you. Just shoot 2 inches away from me.
I'd be like, hey, we're up by Joe. Maybe we don't do the thing where you shoot a bullet right next to my brain.
Yeah. We'll table that.
But it is, and they have been unable to find social media accounts for this guy. It's also possible that he wasn't just doing too much social media. I mean, he was clearly part of this YouTube gun community. And I think the head of that community, was shocked and came out, and I'm horrified by it, et cetera, et cetera. But there should be questions asked when the theme coming out of this assassination attempt is that people need to tamp down rhetoric. There should be some legitimate questions asked, what was this guy's agenda? Because what has grown in this country since the rise of Trump and concurrent with the rise of Trump, and in some parts because of Trump, but in some parts simply Trump was delivered because of a rise of this on the right, is this notion of a civil war that needs to happen in this country. That in the wake of having the first African-American president, there was a lot of people who became angry at what was happening to the white majority in this country. And that anger takes a bunch of forms. Some of it is racialized, much of it, but a lot of it is also becomes conspiratorial, and the idea of a one world order and, Alex Jones type of territory, which a bunch of these right wingers are drifting into.
Or
And you get-
accelerationism, which
Excel-
you
get-
hinted at yesterday.
You get
Yeah.
organizations like the Boogaloo Boys, who are out there and hold sort of a myriad of positions, but all of them end up pointing towards what's going to create sort of a civil war and a reckoning that will ultimately bring us some type of, quasi-fascist libertarian paradise. And so these things are all sort of like, loosely connected. Do I think that this guy was anything but a lone shooter? No. But do I think it's possible that he was immersed in this sort of like ideology that says we need to create some moment where the Civil War happens? It's possible. I mean, I think the most likely explanation remains he was a guy who had suicidal ideation and thought this is going to be the most sort of like consequential thing I can do with my life ever, and decided to dedicate the short remainder of his life to that point. But these are important things to know, because when the narrative is both sides need to calm down their rhetoric, what we're doing is covering over a certain reality of what's going on in this country about a right-wing movement in this country that takes multiple forms. But one of it is in the form of Peter Thiel, and one of it's in the form of the Boogaloo Boys, and and we're going to talk about this in terms of the RNC. But half the people who were involved in the accoutrements of the RNC last night, whether it was like, saying the Pledge of Allegiance or doing other things, were arraigned for trying to storm the Capitol and convicted for trying to storm the Capitol. It's a problem. And we'll talk about the other half of that problem, which is, we've got a guy who's holding on to, who's driving this bus and white knuckled, hanging onto the steering wheel, and nobody can seem to get him out of the driver's seat, even though he's careening down the highway.
So we can articulate these very real concerns and dangers, obviously. Right.
All right.
Just a quick Rand Paul tweet from 2016. Why do we have a Second Amendment? It's not to shoot deer. It's to shoot at the government when it becomes tyrannical. Yeah, I wonder where this comes from in the right.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.